Hey there, welcome to Pop Culture Cupid.
I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
And I'm Michal, I'm a single life coach. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self relationship.
In this podcast, we will look at how pop culture impacts romance, dating, and your love life.
And each week we'll shoot another arrow through another pop culture delusion.
I thought we weren't going to do the whole cheesy thing.
And then burst into smithereens.
Oh my god, dude, that's so cringe!
Sorry, it's in the intro now.
If you make it through the chaos and you enjoy what you hear, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and go to all the social media.
At Pop Culture Cupid on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy! Yay! Hello, how are you?
It's chilly. It's chilly. How are you?
I'm good. I love your mug. I was going to say it's adorable.
I know, right? It's huge.
Yeah.
It's nearly the size of my head.
That's really cute. For those of you who are listening to the audio, I prompt you to go on YouTube and look at the mug. It's really cute. I have a Harry Potter mug.
I thought I saw the Hufflepuff emblem,
Yeah.
and then we talked about something else, and I was like,
I know. Because I'm a Hufflepuff. I got it from John Lewis in London, and they only had the Hufflepuff and Slytherin left, and I regret not getting the Slytherin one as well, just for the fun. It would have been nice to have like the whole set, but they didn't. They only had the Hufflepuff and Slytherin, so I just got the Hufflepuff. I have a thing for mugs. I have a thing for mugs.
Yeah,
You should see how many mugs I have.
I have a thing for mugs as well. You will see my mug collection in a few months.
I hope so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, but I get that from my parents who just every year it seems to, let's just get them a mug, and they don't have, and I'm sure you're the same and I'm the same, they don't have sets of mugs. They have, a mug from this trip and a mug from that trip and a couple of mugs for this, and if they have 100, I don't think I'm exaggerating.
Yeah, I got it from my mother. She also likes collecting mugs, and I just like wherever I go, I feel like that's the best sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God. When you buy a gift shop, like when you buy what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God, I can't believe it. A souvenir, thank you. Oh my God, I have a bilingual mind, so every so often I can hear the word in Hebrew in my head, but I can't think of it in English. And it happens both ways, by the way. So whenever I'm talking in a conversation, a lot of times I just throw in like words from the other language. And in some conversations, I can't do that. And it's so frustrating. I'm like, so,
I get it.
Yeah.
The other day I wrote something up and I wanted my mum to just kind of check it and just tell me what she thought. And she said, you need to check the grammar in a couple of these sentences because there's something off about it. And I read it again, and if you translated word for word from French to English, you can tell what my mind did. It was just, I wasn't even thinking in English, but because I'd been writing in English and then I switched to French for this particular article, the syntax and the grammar I still had the English kind of like background working somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're also bilingual, so you're basically just kind of probably get
exactly. That. I get it.
Yeah, I remember when I was also now sometimes when I was younger, especially I would how am I going to say this? Like I used to use sort of English, but like the English way of saying something in Hebrew that you can't, like when you say playing the guitar, and I can't really convey it in Hebrew, but like in Hebrew it's like a different word for it. But I would say like the English way of saying it in Hebrew. I hope I didn't butcher that and you get what I mean. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I'm digressing. My brain. Sometimes.
I'm curious to have your thought about this. So I not yet earn a perfect living from coaching and this podcast soon. So I have a job working for a company, and so I was talking to a colleague, and she just arrived in the company, and so we talk about obviously her relationship, and I'm like, it's always a bit tough for me with new people to kind of just like have that barrier of just, if you're going to tell me about your relationship, I'm not gonna coach you into anything. But it's still, people still kind of like talking to me about it. And so has been with this guy for, I think, 4 months or something. And he is going to a concert with his ex-girlfriend that he was together with for like 4 or 5 years. Let's say, call it 5 years. They've been broken up for a year. So during that time where he was single, because she has kids and he has a kid, and they kind of like parented each other's kids, and anyway, they were still on good terms. And so for her birthday, he bought them two. And now as I'm saying it, I'm just anyway, two concert tickets that is supposed to happen in a couple of weeks. And so since, buying the tickets, he has, got into a relationship with my new colleague. And I'm going to stop talking. You speak.
Oh, that's a rough one. Well, I'm not a huge believer in staying friends with your ex. And believe me, I understand that, a lot of times exes were our friends before they were our significant other. So it's like a double loss because you're losing a friend. And a lot of times, even when you weren't friends before, you're still losing a friend when you break up. But there's always going to be that tension and that baggage between you two. So it's kind of like, I mean, if you're not dating other people, then there's no harm, no foul for like whatever you want. But when you're dating another person, it's, I don't know, it's hard to say, because I mean, I feel like, look, there's no wrong or right like way to live life, and a lot of, who am I to tell someone not to be friends with their ex? But when you're dating someone and it's bothering them, then I guess you have to understand why it's bothering, and if there's something there. I don't know. It's really hard to say. There's like no concrete answer here. It really depends on the dynamics between the two. I mean, it's not as if like they're divorced and they have shared kids. They each have kids, which sort of are shared, but I don't know.
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and I'm not sure if I'm making any sense in anything that I'm saying, because I myself don't know how I would react if my boyfriend started hanging out with his girlfriend. There's something weird about it.
It links into what I was telling you about this. I'm gonna say like these trigger words or whatever, but the woke culture. Honestly, if I had to, I'm not even gonna say if I were left or right where I would sit, but I get it. I get the woke culture. I did the Thailand like trip, and I got into it, and I got into this whole, thinking for yourself mentality, and like you live for yourself and you don't owe anyone anything, and you like be your beautiful original self. I get it, and I think it's beautiful, and I think if everybody could just mind their own business, because I think that some truth to that, I think it would be great. However, so I'm trying to get in his mindset of what is he getting out of this. Okay, he wants to get to the concert, he likes spending time with her, and he doesn't owe anyone anything, so he doesn't owe my colleague anything. However, you know, you live in a society, so you want to be thinking, you still want to be thinking of other things, my freedom stops where the other person's freedom begins, type of thing. And when you're in a relationship, if you don't think that you should be taking into account the other person's feelings, then I think that's a problem and you shouldn't be in a relationship. Like, I agree with, when you're in a relationship, it should be a majority of just like bonuses, and it shouldn't be life changing. You should be your own person, and the relationship you're in should be bringing in more positivity than it does anything else. However, people come with their baggage, and you should be taking that baggage into account. If you want to be in a relationship and get all of the positives, you should be dealing with the negatives. And so, this guy, my colleague, is saying, no, this is making me really uncomfortable for a variety of valid reasons. And he's coming back saying, no, I do what I want. I'm my own person. I'm my free spirit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, fine. You shouldn't be in a relationship. You shouldn't be wanting to share your life with somebody if you're not willing to hear her boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, it's a relationship is a give and take, and you have to make compromises for one another. Of course, ones that don't go against your morals and values, and you have to weigh in on what's worth it and what isn't. And I feel like a lot of times we want we hold another person to a standard which we're not willing or can't uphold ourselves. So I might go out with my ex-boyfriend and hang out with him, but he's not allowed to hang out with his ex-girlfriend, because that bothers me. So I'm saying, I mean, on the surface, if they're friends and nothing's going on, and it's like, you're talking and having an open conversation about it, then fine, and let him go hang out with his ex-girlfriend. But he has to also be open-minded. If you like, a lot of times you have to think of, would it bother me if the other side did this as well? And then if that bothers you, then you know that you're doing something wrong. Because if you want to hang out with your ex-girlfriend and do things with her, you have to think, okay, but if my girlfriend hung out with her ex-boyfriend, would that bother me? And that sort of helps you answer the quantum, I don't know how to call it, of whether or not this is right or wrong.
I agree. I think each relationship and each situation, and I agree. I completely agree with you, like not being a big believer of being friends with your exes, but there are some exceptions, and and it's fine. I think that the mistake that's happening here on his side is that he is making out like my colleague is being a bit like, she's making a mountain out of a molehill, and she's being, she's being high maintenance, and she's being petty and all of these things. And as soon as because I tried, when she was telling me about it, I tried to kind of just see his point of view, and whether I'm coaching or just with friends, I rarely just kind of back my friend 100%. I often try to just see the bigger picture, because I believe that's what's most helpful. And then she told me that he was just like, you're pissing me off with this, you need to drop it, and like, it's nothing, you're making it bigger than it is. And I was like, that's the problem. Going to a concert with his ex isn't, it's an amber flag, it's the gray area. I don't know what I think about it. You haven't been together for a long time. It's the gray area. However, not accepting that it is a big deal to you, especially as this girl, this woman, she is not the type to just kind of be annoyed at everything. She's very easygoing. She doesn't make a fuss. She's, so if she's making a big deal out of this thing, I think that needs to be heard. I'm not saying that he needs to change his plans, but there needs to be a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, it is one thing to want to hang out with your ex, but it's a whole other thing if you don't listen to the other side's concern without making them feel bad for it. That's basically gaslighting them. making them feel like they're the problems for having issues with it or feeling jealous or whatever it is. You have to have an open mind about it, because it's not like any normal, hang out with a friend. In general, hanging out with a friend of the other sex is problematic in our days, but when it's your ex, it's even more complicated. And so you have to be open-minded to that. You can't only expect to get understanding for your situation if you're not willing to give back the same amount of understanding to the other side's concern. And I feel like, again, that's part of like the wokeness today that you were mentioning before, is that I don't see wokeness anymore as being trying to be your best self and, focusing on yourself and living your life. I see wokeness as being self-obsessed
Yeah.
and being overly politically correct and being overly like feeling superior because you're supporting a cause, or feeling, I don't know, it's just like this, it feels pathetic to me, this whole wokeness. I feel like the young generation is it's just
Yeah.
everyone's so oversensitive. You can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. You can only talk about this if you're that. And if you say something like that, it's okay. But if they say something, it's not. And white people can be racist, but other people can't be racist. And it's just like, what? And if you're skinny, then you can't have body issues. And if you're fat, then you're allowed to skinny shame. And it's just like all this kind of wokeness that is you're not who dictate who's gonna talk about what and who isn't, and in what pronouns, and they get insulted and feel violated if they whatever, if, like, someone misgenders them. I mean, like, I'm sorry, I'm getting all like worked up about this, but I feel like it's they demand respect which they're not willing to give.
Yeah, I agree. You look, I think it's with wokeness and feminism and the Me Too movement, where it starts off as something, I actually don't know where the wokeness movement kind of started, but it starts off with this thing which is actually quite good and powerful, and then it just gets completely perverse. And so, to kind of bring it back to what we were saying, it's just, you're in a relationship, it's like, yeah, I do me, and you're not going to tell me what to do, and your feelings belong to you and all of this, and you have to hear my feelings. Well, no. In every situation, it's, two people are responsible at least, and you need to be able to hear it. I was recently, I'm not going to go into the detail, but a long time ago, I realized, I made a mistake, and it's kind of been eating away at me. And so recently, I apologized for that mistake. And the woman I made the mistake to, she was just like, oh yeah, you behaved badly and blah 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 blah. I was like, well, I mean, yes, you need to hear that the reason I did that was because your actions led to it. I'm not justifying my behavior. I'm just saying that you also did this, this, and this, and this. And so in this situation where our friendship kind of ended, I made a mistake, but look at what you did. And she was like, no, I'm not to blame. I'm not going to think, you hurt me. And I was like, well, you also hurt me. It just so happens that my behavior is the one that ended the friendship, but your behavior could have ended the friendship way earlier. Blah, 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 no. And it's all of these things was just like, you're in a situation, like two-way street, two-way relationship, where if you're not willing to hear the other person's side, and just kind of like, make a balance of it, not 50-50, but maybe a 60-40, but definitely not 100-0, there's a problem. And I think that's linked to the whole movement of just like, I'm going to be thinking about myself, and and the world revolves around me, and blah blah blah, and I feel attacked, and I feel this. No, so many things happen all the time. If you want everything to go well, you need to be thinking about all of these things, or just go be a hermit in the middle of nowhere.
And the problem isn't only about listening to other people and to the other person's side. It's also about blaming everyone else but yourself. In any given situation that you are a part of, no matter how wrong or right you are, you also have a hand in that situation and its outcome. I was talking to my boyfriend about this the other day, where even in situations when you're not to blame, you have to look at what you did to cause what happened. And I'm not saying, like, let's say you're walking down the street and someone robs you. Of course, it's entirely that person's fault. I think it's terrible that we have people in the world who do such terrible things, and they're the ones to blame. But you can't control their behavior. You can't control anyone else's behavior but your own. So if you're in a situation where something goes wrong, whether someone robs you, attacks you, assaults you, insults you, whatever it is, you can't control their behavior. There's rarely anything you can say or do to a person in that situation where they will go, oh yes, I was wrong, you were right, I see it now. No, the only person's behavior that you can change and impact 100% is your own. So no matter what the situation is, you have to look, okay, what did I do in that situation and how can I do better in the future? Yes, the person who robbed you is to blame and it's terrible that they did that. But did you walk down a terrible street at night alone with your phone hanging out or with your money wave, whatever it is, I'm not sure how of a good example this is, but again, you can't control anyone else's behavior, only your own. And we always, our first instinct is to start blaming the whole world and their sister and victimizing ourselves and feeling sorry for ourselves and feeling like everyone's against us but us, and we don't reflect on what we did and how we can be better and behave differently. I mean, there's I think it was Pierce Morgan who said this, who said to someone he was talking about, and he says, how selfish are you to think that you can live your whole life without being insulted, without being what was the word he said? Oh, I forgot it. I'm butchering this.
Yeah, without feeling offended or feeling
without being offended. Yes, without being offended. Like, how can you go through the world like without expecting to not be offended?
No, I agree. It would be like me going into a country where it's expected of women to cover their knees or hair or whatever, or easy when you go to Italy. So next door to me, a 3-hour drive, 2-hour train ride. When you go visit these amazing churches, they expect people to cover their shoulders and their knees. That's just the way it is. Am I gonna be, oh, that's offensive, are you insulting me? It's like, no, that's just the way it is. You can't, people have different ways of reacting. And yeah, you just, what you were saying earlier about, your behavior and things like that, it reminds me of sometimes women, they tell me, oh, all men are the same, they're all cheaters and they all end up cheating on me and blah, blah, blah. How do I pick these men, etc.? And I was like, well, let's just think about this, about, is there any behavior that that might lead to this? Because are you picking the wrong men? Let's talk about that. Or are you picking the right men but pushing them to the bad behavior? Because everybody's capable of anything, pushed to a certain extent. Anybody's capable of anything. You just need to find the right way of provoking them and pushing them down the right way of doing it, anything. That's just a firm belief of mine. And so if you're, constantly repeating the same patterns with men, the common denominator is you. It's not men in general. And so just, think about it. And often, so, women, sometimes they'll pick the wrong men a couple of times in a row. But sometimes they'll say things like, I don't make time for them, we never spend time, my girlfriends are my priority, my gym membership is my priority, my career is my priority, and things like that. It's like, okay, so you're telling me that you're in a relationship with a guy that you never see and never spend any time with, and so you expect him to just do nothing and wait for you? Oh, blah blah blah, but he should do the same. So, well, no, he wants to be in a relationship and have some affection. I'm not justifying his behavior. I'm just saying that you come to a situation where he loves you, he doesn't want to leave you, but you're not, it's not a two-way street. And it's just, rethink about it, make time for your relationship, or stop picking the wrong men. There are all sorts of different ways. If this thing keeps happening to you over and over and over again, you need to rethink the way that you behave in a relationship by picking the right people and then behaving the right way with the people that you pick.
Yeah. Or accepting a certain kind of behavior towards you. Many times we behave in relationships in obsessive ways, or we become overly dependent on that relationship because we give it too much power over us, or we allow people to behave towards us because we don't think we deserve better, or we believe that this is the type of behavior. People usually mimic our behavior towards ourselves, and that's how we behave. So, like, if you don't respect yourself, no one else is gonna respect you.
Cool.
And that causes us a lot of times to choose all of the wrong people, or where we're so scared of being on our own, so we're willing to settle for just anyone that comes our way. And or we just give someone too much influence on our life. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And giving somebody too much influence and the way that you think about it, JT, so my boyfriend, recently he had I have, we have different ways of communicating, and just, so I like things to be like very clear, because I went through, I realized that I went through this phase of being an unclear person when I was in my early 20s, and whatever. And so now I've become, I like things to be clear and things like that. And even sometimes I'm not, nobody's perfect. But JT doesn't give the same importance to the same things that I do. And so sometimes he'll say something and I'm like, that's it, that doesn't make any sense according to this, and blah, blah, blah. And anyway, and so we got in an argument over something that has no impact on my life whatsoever. And, I can defend it and just say, yeah, but look, he's being unclear, he's wishy-washy, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, does that impact me? Really? Does that, is it really that important? And, so I'm just taking a step back, and it's just, I choose the way I react to these things, and I choose, what's important. Fundamentally, if it hasn't got an impact on my life, should I be having any feelings about it whatsoever? Bar some exceptions, of course. If you see, injustice happening, and you let it happen, I believe that you are part of the problem. But this wasn't injustice. This was, something about the car, and just it was nothing. It was just nothing. And so, the way you react to things also is on you.
Yeah. My boyfriend and I actually also had an argument not long ago, which is funny. We usually don't argue. Usually we're very harmonious and we talk about things, and everything's like so calm and relaxed with us. And this was like a rare occasion where we had like this little blow up. I don't even know what to call it. And we didn't talk for a couple of days. And then in my mind, I was like, okay, I can approach this with anger and frustration, or I can remain calm and hear him out and understand what's going on in his mind before I decide for him, or before I decide how to react. Like, a lot of times we argue with a person in our heads without actually talking to them first, and we already decide ahead of time how we're gonna respond without actually knowing what's really going on. And when you're in a mature relationship, your prerogative isn't to win the argument. It shouldn't be an ego boost, and it shouldn't be I want to win and I want to be the right one. There should be, you should want to understand the person, see what the root of the problem is, and be able to do and be better next time and be there for each other. So I chose to first listen to what's going on in his mind and his train of thought. And when you realize that, and he was also scared of my reaction, but when he saw that I was being calm and listening to him, he was able to, without getting defensive and without getting scared and without closing up even more. And so that gave me the ability to really hear where it was coming from and understand, okay, he is very self-aware, he understands what he did wrong, he feels bad, and he hates that he caused me pain. So I'm saying, okay, fine, so then this is good. If you would have, responded otherwise, then I would have gotten a bit more upset and more, reacted differently. But that's why you have to react appropriately to the situation and remain calmly and understand that, especially when you're in a relationship, you don't want to have to fear for your relationship every single time there's an argument or disagreement. You want to know that you're strong enough to be able to respect each other, to be strong for each other, even in times where you're angry. And you're able to communicate it to each other in a healthy way that's productive and that gets you out in not only one unit, but a stronger unit.
Yeah, what you just said about being able to get into an argument without fearing for your relationship is beautiful. I just watched a YouTube short of Chandler and Monica from Friends, and it was like,
oh, Chandler.
Oh, I know.
Oh, he was my favorite friend.
Oh, was he? Oh. I think it was linked to that, like the best Chandler and Monica moments.
Yeah.
And so where they had gotten into an argument, and Chandler was like, "Oh, I guess it's over now," and Monica was like, "What?" And Chandler was like, "Well, we had an argument. Like, I guess it's over." She was like, "No, this is how adult relationships work. Like, welcome to an adult relationship." And I was like, that's just, the person that you were with is the person that you was, the most likely to get into arguments with. Because if you tell me that you don't ever get into arguments with your boyfriend, I'm willing to bet that you don't get into many arguments often. Like,
yeah.
And it's just, but it happens sometimes. And so statistically, the one that you spend most of your time with is the one you're going to get into an argument with, because your guards are a bit lower and things like that. And that has to be okay.
Yeah.
When you work, there's this thing going around on social media, which is great, where they say, you are not irreplaceable at your place of work. You are irreplaceable at home. And so that translates into your relationship as, the plans that you make with the person that you live with or share your life with or things like that, they have way more stakes than just anything else. It starts with, going on holiday and spending money, or maybe moving in together, or getting married, or having kids. And it's these big things of where, the stakes are bigger than just, spending the boss's money on this computer program, whatever. And so, you want to get into a relationship, and where if you get into an argument, the nature of your argument is just, you're not thinking, I'm rethinking my relationship. You're just tired and frustrated, and you just, and so it's happening, and then you're just going to rebuild. And so, what you did is a different version of what we did, which was just talking about it, where I was just like, maybe I'm overreacting, and and he was just like, I agree, I'm unclear sometimes, and and I need to be clearer. And so and that just,
Yeah. And we're also human beings at the end of the day. And with any two people, that are going to be, tough interactions. You are going to clash sometimes. And I mean, recently, recently we've both been, with all the situation going on, we've both been overloaded. There was a period of time we were spending a bit more time together. And it was like, with going on together, it was sort of inevitable for us to not clash. It's fine. It's completely fine, especially when you're in a relationship and that's the one person you can put your guards down next to, and
yeah,
can just, let go and be frustrated and let out your steam. And, these days, connecting it with the wokeness is like you feel so superior that no one should be able to hurt you or harm you, or someone blows at them and then they crumble. Like, don't hurt me. No one's allowed to hurt me. No one's allowed to. And yes, we don't want to be hurt, but like, we have to understand that, it's going to happen, and we can't be so weak as to not expect anyone to not ever hurt us, or to not have arguments, or just up and leave every time something is a bit difficult, or to say, oh, no one should hurt me, or no one should be this. Like, it's naive to go through life and expect to 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 be they'll just have a shield around you, and everyone treading on glass next to you, to not, God forbid, offend you in any way.
yeah. And if you're the type of person, find your triggers of just, if so, coming back to JT and I, where we had this argument, and when I was angry about the missing communication, I was telling him, what type of man are you? Are you the type of man who does this or does this? And I was like, and then I was kind of hearing myself, and I was just like, but it's okay if you're like this. It's just I need to know and adapt. Anyway, it was it.
Yeah.
Also, I'm PMSing, and it was right in the middle of it, and it's not always a good excuse, but I guess sometimes you overreact. Anyway, but it's finding, making it okay to realize the type of person you are, and then just finding your people. So these
Yeah.
people who get offended very easily, just fine, you get offended easily for whatever reason. I mean, what a luxury to be offended because somebody calls you he instead of she, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Think about what other problems in the world. Like, great, that's your biggest problem. Consider, okay, take yourself out of that situation, go find your people and be with them. Don't expect
Yeah.
the whole world to change for you, and don't waste your energy on doing that. It's just not going to happen. That the gay community, a lot of people in the gay community of the older generation are saying things like, we fought the battles to be accepted, but the way that we did it is just we minded our own business, and we weren't, offensive to the straight community, and we weren't forcing them into accepting us. We were just being, and then just talk to people who didn't, weren't offended, and then they helped talk to people who were kind of on the fence, and that's how it happened. You are too aggressive, and that, so the older generation gay community is saying to the younger generation, like woke movement, saying, we get it, you want to be accepted, that's fine, but you're just not doing it the right way. Just, you do you, leave everybody else alone, you do you. And
Yeah. People today expect special privileges and special treatment, and they think, that they deserve things that other people don't, or complaining that certain type of clothes are in the back of the store, not in the front, celebrating your identity. It's like, you want to celebrate your identity, go ahead. Who are you that you should have special privileges just because your gender or your sexuality or whatever it is, that everyone else should have, like, it should be in your face? I mean, and you know what, especially if you're going to criticize the other side, if you want to have that special privilege then don't go ahead and criticize the other side for being themselves, and for you know, it doesn't go both, like, you can't expect it to go both ways. And it just really is phenomenal how these people manage to make it all about themselves, and how to make themselves the victim no matter what. It's unbelievable. And I see them now, like, you know, they post all these videos, like, canceling and shaming other creators or other places or other people for not being politically correct. Like, what kind of world do we live in where we have to cancel every single person that says something tiny out of place or whatever it is? And if you feel the need to shame or cancel someone for having their own opinions and their own views, then you also have to look at yourself and understand why you feel the need to do that. Because even if the other side is wrong in what they're doing, why do you feel the need to go in the attack and cancel them and shame them? If you feel like someone else is doing something wrong, that's not the way to make them see differently, or to fix a situation, or to make change. You don't make change by shaming and canceling. You make change by showing a different side of yourself or of what you believe in. It's taking action and making positive change and helping others. It just, there's no benefit in, there's absolutely no benefit in shaming and canceling. And again, you have to look at your own actions and your own words of what you are doing, and not only what other people are doing. And it's, again, to take it back also to the argument that I have with my boyfriend. Yes, he hurt my feelings, but I was also like, what did I do wrong to lead him to hurt my feelings? Because I know that I can be annoying. I know that I can do things without, you know, when no one's perfect. I'm like, okay, I was offended. I was hurt. He was not okay. He's aware that he's not okay. So I need to be aware of what I did wrong and how I can do it differently in the situation. So again, it's like there's always a give and take here.
Yeah, and to circle back to your argument that he was not okay and things like that, I'm like noticing that overwhelmingly women have learned to express themselves in a really clear way, where it's next to impossible to contradict a woman who's expressing her feelings. And I think that's amazing. Like, that's fantastic. I think, you know, it should become bigger and bigger. But men have not. And I'm talking emotionally. I'm not talking about, you know, in, you know, business and everything, where it's a whole other thing. But I think when it comes to emotions in a relationship and things like that, women have for a long time been able to express themselves with each other, with the opposite sex and things like that, whereas men have not, and they do not. And, you know, men is just, and this isn't, you know, the portrayal of like the media. I've asked a bunch of men, like, do you ever get together a group of guys and just talk about your relationship, talk about how she pissed you off, talk about this, talk about that? Do you ever, when we have a fight, do you go complain to your friends and things like that? And the men, some do, but overwhelmingly, majoritively do not. And I think that's, you know, a problem. And so with the men that I coach, I often, you know, I get them to think about what is it they are feeling, and you get them to use words. And, you know, women, they will say very easily frustrated, sad, angry, and, you know, and great that it's so, you know, eloquent. Men do not. Men, they will say things like, I guess a bit tired, I guess, you know, and they take a long time to get these words out. And, you know, what led to this? And women will say this, this, and this. And then they, you know, men are like, well, they have to really think about it because they haven't learned. And I think, you know, that in these situations where we feel annoyed, you know, justifiably annoyed, we're able to express it so well, so quickly, that then it's just walking all over the men of just saying, you know, who are like, oh my God, I can't even process my own feelings, and now I've got yours all over me. And I think, you know, that's a problem in today's society.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that men have gotten used to or been told that, you know, they shouldn't express their emotions and that it's girly or whatever it is. And then, but then there's also the fact that a lot of times women, they have all the emotions, and then when a guy tries to express his side, it's sort of not okay for them, or they try to I've seen this a lot with women, that they oppress the men's side of things, like you're the man, you're not, you know, you don't understand, or you don't this. And so, I mean, not all women, but a lot of times I see that, and men are afraid to express themselves because whatever they say is wrong, and it's
Yeah.
like the woman has to do right. And it's true that also men, a lot of times, and I feel like this is why men need women a bit more than what women need men, is because a man can't go and share his feelings and his thoughts with his friends. They just don't do that. Like, and with a significant other, they probably will. They're more likely to share what they're going through. Whereas as women, we don't really need a boyfriend to share what we're going through, because we share everything with our best friends. So that's a difference between men and women. And I don't know how we got here, but I feel like
It's a good way to end the podcast, of just
yeah,
that we are not equal in many ways, and it, you know, and JT says it all the time that he and I have a very different type, like two different types of intelligence, of just
mm-hmm.
he's amazingly like cultivated, and he's like an encyclopedia. He's very clever, but
Wow.
when it comes to human like relations and just thinking and like understanding and communicating, he's shockingly bad, and I'm pretty good. And I feel, you know, I made a career. I'm making a career out of it, so I have to be good at it. And he was like, "You amaze me," and you know, we're not the same, and it's great, and it's why, and I think it's why we make, you know, such good communities or like family units and things like that, where the more variety, the better things come out. And you know, my parents are two completely different people, and they've been married for 30 plus years, and they have 3 kids, and you know, and we are, you know, a mixture of them both. And it's just, yeah, you know, to accept that we are different, and that's okay, and then we just, you know, make do with that.
Yeah, and not to judge people on, you know, on first glance, or on the color of their skin, their religion, where they come from, what they look like. Like, we have a tendency to decide a person's fate before actually getting to know them, or we group them together with other people. Like, you know, today, in today's world, the worst thing you can be is a white man, a white straight man. It's
Yeah.
like, why? Like, why? And like, sort of that they're not allowed to have problems or issues. They're not allowed to complain because they're white straight male. Like, how is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah, because then
And
you'll have the gay men who are proud to be gay, which is great.
yeah,
It's like, well, why are we not allowed to be proud for being straight? Well, I you know, and whatever. And so you know, so you'll have some gay men that say you should be proud of being straight, which is great. And then you'll
yeah,
have loads that will say, because we fought for our equality and things like that. I was like, okay, but did you fight, like you personally, or was it other people, your ancestors?
yeah,
No, people from my community. I was like, okay, great. Well, then people from my community did a lot of great things, you know, for our own rights. So is that okay? No, because you're not the one that did it. And I say, anyway, we're digressing again.
we love doing that, don't we?
Yeah, we do. People are different, and that's okay. You know, make sure that you surround yourself with your type of people, and
Yeah,
also accept the fact that they are different. And if they disappoint you, it's not the end of the world. You know, get over
yeah.
it to a certain extent.
And for the love of God, live and let live. That's like the thing that it frustrates me most, where we can't butt out of other people's lives, and we can't stop judging other people for what they do, and we feel like personally offended when someone lives their own life. So just live your life, And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Exactly. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Let us know what you think in all social media.
Yeah. Of all the wokeness.
Yeah.
And everything we talk about. Yeah. Fun.
Bye.
Bye bye.